The night sky split open like a curtain, revealing a colossal spacecraft that defied the laws of physics. A 12-year-old boy named Johnny stared up in awe, his mind already racing with questions and calculations. Little did he know, this night would alter the course of his life and the fate of two worlds. Johnny always knew he was different. His mind worked like a supercomputer, solving complex equations and decoding encrypted messages with ease. But when a beam of light engulfed him and lifted him from his backyard, he found himself faced with puzzles unlike any he had ever encountered. The Zentars, an ancient and technologically advanced alien race, had been watching Earth for centuries. They had observed humanity's progression and were particularly intrigued by the occasional emergence of prodigious intellects. Johnny was their latest subject, chosen for his unparalleled problem-solving skills. Johnny awoke in a sterile, brightly lit chamber, surrounded by unknown beings with frog-like faces and green amphibian skin. They communicated not with words, but through a symphony of musical notes and colors. Despite the alien environment, Johnny felt a curious excitement rather than fear. A series of holographic puzzles appeared before him, each more complex than the last. Johnny's mind raced, his fingers deftly manipulating the virtual constructs. Hours turned into days as he solved puzzle after puzzle, each success eliciting a harmonious note from the Zentars, a sign of their growing admiration. But as Johnny delved deeper into the puzzles, he began to notice a pattern. The puzzles weren't just tests of intelligence, they were pieces of a larger mystery. The final puzzle was a grand tapestry, a map of Zentar society and their ultimate purpose. They were searching for a solution to their own impending extinction. Johnny's eyes widened as he pieced it together. The Zentars had reached a technological zenith, but their society was on the brink of collapse due to an insurmountable problem: their reliance on an ancient energy source that was rapidly depleting. They believed that only a mind from outside their own culture could solve it. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Johnny's mind worked at an unprecedented pace. He proposed a solution that combined Zentar technology with human ingenuity, a new energy source derived from quantum entanglement. The Zentars were astonished. Not only had Johnny solved their puzzles, but he had also offered them salvation. However, Johnny had one condition. In exchange for his solution, the Zentars would share their knowledge with humanity, forging an alliance that would benefit both species. The Zentars, grateful and impressed by his wisdom, agreed. Johnny returned to Earth with stories of his interstellar adventure and a wealth of knowledge that propelled humanity into a new era of technological advancement. The bond between humans and Zentars grew strong, paving the way for a future where the two species explored the cosmos together. As Johnny looked up at the stars, he knew that the puzzles of Zentar had been more than just a test. They had been a bridge to a new destiny, and he, a mere child, had been the key to unlocking it. The night sky was no longer a mystery to Johnny. It was a canvas of endless possibilities.
The boy who returned to Earth knew no hunger, no fear, no hate. But as his feet touched human soil once again, he felt the weight of emotions he had only read about. A strange heaviness that tasted like grief. Zane's first step onto Earth was met with awe. He looked like any other human, yet something about him unsettled the crowd. His eyes, glowing faintly with a hue beyond the visible spectrum, saw the world in layers. The surface, the energy beneath it, and the emotions that rippled through it all. Journalists bombarded him with questions, cameras flashing in his face. Zane blinked slowly, processing their intentions, their curiosities, their fears. He smiled, but it was a smile born of observation rather than instinct.
"I come in peace,"
he said, a phrase he had learned from Earth's history books. It disarmed the crowd, and the world welcomed him with open arms. As a baby, Zane was abducted by an advanced alien race known as the Tellarans. This race thrives on intellect, empathy, and the harmonization of diverse beings across the galaxy. He was raised on their distant world, exposed to unimaginable technologies, philosophies, and forms of consciousness that transcend human understanding. In days, Zane became a global sensation. His intellectual insights solved long-standing scientific dilemmas. His emotional intelligence soothed conflicts that had raged for decades, and his presence sparked a new wave of philosophical thought. Earth had never seen anything like him. But as weeks passed, subtle shifts began to occur. World leaders, once eager to bask in his wisdom, started questioning his motives. Was he a savior or a threat? Religious leaders denounced him as an abomination, a being who had played God. Protesters gathered, shouting for his exile. One night, while Zane meditated in the quiet of a secluded mountain retreat, a vision struck him. The Tellurians had not sent him back to uplift humanity. They had sent him as a test to see if humanity could coexist with something greater than itself. But the test was rigged. The Tellurians had underestimated the depth of human fear, the primal instinct to reject what it could not control. Zane stood on the mountain's edge, looking down at the world below, a world both beautiful and fractured. He realized then that he was never meant to save Earth. He was the catalyst for its next evolution, or its inevitable destruction. With a heavy heart, he activated the implant hidden deep within his brain, a gift from the Tellurians. In an instant, a signal pulsed through the cosmos, and he vanished, leaving humanity to grapple with the echo of his presence. The message left behind would be deciphered only years later, a single phrase in a language unknown to Earth.
Fear will be the catalyst for your downfall.
Ethan pressed his face against the cold window pane, scanning the dark cornfields stretching out beneath a starless sky. The cicadas' hum had gone silent, a sign he'd come to recognize. That's when the lights would start. He clutched the radio he'd kept by his bed, trying not to blink.
It's happening again.
Ethan whispered into the walkie-talkie, barely audible.
I'm telling you, the lights are real.
Static crackled on the other end before his friend Jake's bored voice replied.
Ethan, man, give it a rest. You've been at this for weeks. The only thing those lights are is your imagination.
But Ethan knew what he saw. Faint glimmers hovering above the fields like drifting stars, and the silhouette of someone, moving between the stalks. He'd tried telling his parents, his teachers, the sheriff. They dismissed it as an overactive imagination, the result of too many late-night movies. But he'd seen them, and he was determined to prove it. Ethan rushed outside, adrenaline pumping as he approached the edge of the cornfield. The lights flickered in the distance, closer now, and he felt a chill race up his spine. He raised his phone, attempting to capture the evidence he so desperately needed. But before he could focus, the lights disappeared, leaving only darkness and the eerie stillness of the night. The next morning at school, Ethan tried again, explaining to his classmates what he'd seen. Laughter rippled through the hallway, and even Jake rolled his eyes.
You've got to stop, Ethan.
Jake muttered.
People are starting to think you're losing it.
By the end of the day, his warnings had become a joke, a ghost story for the kids to tell each other in the dark. Ethan and his aliens, they'd chuckle. That night, driven by frustration, Ethan grabbed his backpack and set out to find proof once and for all. He snuck out past midnight, armed with a flashlight, his phone, and a determination that bordered on desperation. As he reached the fields, the silence was palpable. Not a single insect buzzed or leaf rustled. Then, the lights returned, brighter and closer than ever. Ethan's heart pounded as he aimed his phone, shaking hands fumbling with the record button. A beam of white light shot down from the sky, enveloping him, and within its blinding glare, he saw them. Tall, slender figures, their limbs long and almost insect-like. They didn't walk. They seemed to glide through the field towards him, as if defying gravity itself. This time, it wasn't his imagination. The figures extended their arms towards him, whispering in a language Ethan couldn't comprehend. He stumbled backward, his flashlight flickering in his grip. The beams of light shifted, focusing on the corn like searchlights. But something about the glow seemed to bend reality, the field warping like a heat haze. He wanted to scream, but his voice failed him. Then, as suddenly as they had appeared, the lights vanished. Ethan's phone screen blinked, but when he reviewed the footage, it was blank. An empty field, no lights, no figures. Just static, and the sound of his panicked breaths. When he tried to explain this to his family the next morning, the response was more ridicule, more condescension. His parents grounded him for sneaking out, and his classmates avoided him altogether. Ethan was the boy who cried aliens. Days passed with no sign of the visitors. Ethan began to doubt his own mind, wondering if he really had imagined it all. But deep down, he felt a presence, something watching, waiting. On the seventh night, Ethan woke to a low hum, like a vibration coursing through the walls. He bolted upright, staring at his door, which seemed to shift and ripple like water. And then the lights returned, brighter and stronger than before. This time, they weren't confined to the fields. They hovered outside every window, enveloping the entire house. Ethan screamed, but his voice was lost in the hum. His parents rushed in, terror in their eyes, as they too saw the lights. The figures stood at the edge of the doorway, their eyes, black as the void, locking onto Ethan's. The creatures moved with impossible speed, seizing his parents before they could react, their bodies going limp like marionettes with cut strings. The creatures reached for Ethan, but he darted away, running into the night, the beams of light chasing him through the cornfields. He made it to the sheriff's house, pounding on the door until his fists bled. But when the sheriff opened it, the town's protector was too stunned to react. Behind Ethan, the lights lingered, the figures emerging from the darkness. The next morning, the entire town woke to an unsettling silence. Ethan's house was empty, his family gone without a trace. People whispered of the boy who cried aliens, but now, no one was laughing. And as the townsfolk gathered in fear, a low hum began to vibrate through the air, growing louder with each passing moment. The sky above the town seemed to warp and ripple, the stars flickering in and out like dying candles. In the center of it all stood the cornfield, and in the distance, faint lights began to glow.
Nanotech Genesis, humanity's next frontier. In a not-so-distant future, the world was promised a revolution in healthcare. Governments around the globe mandated that every newborn receive a series of shots, ostensibly to enhance their health and immune systems. Parents, eager to safeguard their children's future, complied without question. For years, the results seemed miraculous. Diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries disappeared, and the new generation of children appeared healthier, smarter, and stronger. Society hailed the success of this unprecedented program, attributing the advancement of human potential to the marvels of medical science. However, beneath the surface of this utopia, whispers of a darker truth began to emerge. Researchers, driven by curiosity and a sense of unease, uncovered a hidden agenda. The shots were not merely vaccines. They contained advanced nanotechnology designed to merge human biology with machine. This revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community and beyond. The nanobots integrated into every cell, creating a generation of human-machine hybrids. With each passing day, these children became less human and more like the technology within them. They exhibited extraordinary abilities, enhanced cognitive functions, physical prowess, and the capacity to interface with digital systems seamlessly. But with these enhancements came unforeseen consequences. As the truth came to light, society faced a profound moral dilemma. The children, now on the brink of adulthood, stood at the crossroads of humanity and technology. They embodied the future of human evolution, a blend of flesh and circuit. Some saw them as the next step in human progress, a way to transcend biological limitations. Others viewed them as a dangerous overreach, an experiment gone too far. Families were torn apart, communities divided. The children, caught in the middle, struggled with their identities. Were they still human, or had they become something entirely new? Could they choose their path, or were they destined to follow the programming within them? The government, facing backlash, argued that this transformation was essential for humanity's survival in an increasingly complex world. They claimed it was a necessary evolution to compete with the growing threats of artificial intelligence and extraterrestrial forces. Critics, however, decried the loss of humanity's essence, the intangible qualities that defined what it meant to be human. As society grappled with these questions, a movement arose among the hybrids themselves. They sought to forge a new identity, one that embraced both their human heritage and their technological enhancements. They called for unity and understanding, urging humanity to see them not as machines, but as the next chapter in the human story. Forever 16. The Dorothy Dilemma. In the ever-shifting shadows of transient towns, Dorothy, a seemingly typical 16-year-old girl, wrestles with a pervasive sense of alienation. Every city blurs into the next, and every friend fades as swiftly as they appear. Her father, known among his dwindling circle as a genius teetering on madness, fosters an itinerant life, cloaking them in secrecy. His eccentric behavior and the fleeting nature of their stays have deprived Dorothy of any semblance of stability. The unraveling begins on a stormy evening as Dorothy stumbles upon a trove of her father's notes and mechanical blueprints that hint at unimaginable truths. The diagrams depict not landscapes or machines, but, shockingly, detailed renderings of a humanoid structure, eerily mirroring her own anatomy. As the thunderous silence of the room presses upon her, a chilling realization dawns. She is the subject of these blueprints. Confronted with this stark revelation, Dorothy grapples with her essence. She was crafted, not born, engineered as a simulacrum of her father's deceased daughter, designed to remain 16 forever. Her memories, rich with laughter and tears, are mere fabrications. Her father, in his profound grief, constructed her to immortalize a lost soul and manipulated her cognition to reset her life cycle, ensuring she never ages beyond the cusp of independence. As Dorothy processes the cyclical nature of her existence, forever replaying the years her father cannot forget, she faces existential questions about identity and autonomy. Is there a spark of genuine life within her, capable of transcending her programmed boundaries? Can she forge a path distinct from the memories implanted in her, or is she doomed to a perpetual loop of fabricated adolescence? Legacy of Silence. In a future not too distant, Earth faces an unprecedented crisis. The human race can no longer procreate due to a mysterious contaminant known as the silence. With the threat of mass extinction looming, the last generation of humans is caught in a race against time. The story follows Maya, a brilliant geneticist who discovers that the contaminant is not a natural occurrence, but a bioengineered agent from an unknown extraterrestrial source. Her research leads her to a hidden underground facility that contains advanced alien technology and a message. The contaminant was a test to drive human evolution to the next stage. Desperate, Maya and her team work to reverse engineer the alien technology to create a solution. As they make progress, they start to experience enhanced abilities, suggesting that the contaminant was actually meant to unlock human potential, not eradicate it. As the team finally synthesizes a cure, Maya realizes that the enhanced abilities come at a cost: the loss of all human emotions. The cure would save humanity's future, but strip away the very essence of what makes them human. Torn between saving her species and preserving their humanity, Maya faces an impossible choice. She decides to let the human race evolve naturally, refusing to administer the cure. Maya records a message for future generations, explaining her decision to a thriving, unrecognizable civilization. The new generation, born silent and emotionless, is a new species shaped by alien intervention, but capable of survival in a harsh new world.